Well, hello. Well, it's another time for an edition of leadership, and this month I wanted to bring some more information about leadership during change. I'm Perry Eggleston. I work at the University of California, Davis. I'm the Executive Director for Transportation Services. Do you remember our original leadership course? Easy as 1, 2, 3. Remember that we need to, as leaders, we need to communicate. We need to teach instead of direct, and we need to be passionate about what we do, but yet humble that folks will want to follow us. Well, when we do a leadership during change, there's a little bit of difference in how we act as leaders. We tend to be more leadership focused and more leading from the front instead of trying to motivate folks from the back. Now, we all remember the pandemic of 2020, and Rahm Emanuel, the mayor in Chicago, stated that you never let a serious crisis go to waste. It's an opportunity to do things you think you could not do before. Well, here at UC Davis, we thought that also. March 16th, 2020, the shelter-in-place order is issued. UC Davis closed. Our transportation services refunded hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we stopped enforcing permit requirements. I'm sure many of your campuses did the same. But the UC Davis Transportation Services team didn't stop at reduced operations. We used this low utilization number period of time to begin planning for daily rates, eliminating most of our monthly and annual rates, our permits. And you can go on another course and we go more in detail about how and why we went to daily rates. But basically, there was a lot of work and a lot of transition to do this. Because what we did is we combined a major paradigm inversion into 1 year. What was supposed to be a 3 to 5 year transition ended up being 1 year. We implemented LPR technology. We added Park Mobile. We discontinued physical permits. What else did we do? We had to integrate all this together. We had to set it up, install signs. There was a lot of things to do in a year. And so the frequency of the change that went from 3 to 5 increased about 3 to 5 times for our staff. And what was difficult is I started in January of 2020, as you saw that the pandemic hit, or if you remember the pandemic hit in March of 2020. So I was only here 2 months, and I was introducing our staff into daily rates. And so there was a lot of hand-holding and a lot of catch-up I had to do, a lot of discussions, a lot of training, to get the concept of daily rates and what these theories were and how they worked and how they would be working here on campus, and then deciding how we were going to implement daily rates and then getting the staff to buy into that. Now, what's pretty good about this is I like to brag is that now they are the experts. They tell me how to introduce a new process or something into the daily rate system. They remind me if I start deviating from the theory. And which is pretty cool because, again, I can spend time, as I like to do, dreaming of ideas, and these folks help me and are part of the team to make it happen, and also tell me if I'm if I'm off my rocker or not. And one thing that when we did daily rates is we had to create all new business processes from all our staff that was not based on a physical or monthly permit structure, but based on a daily Park Mobile structure, utilizing their coupon codes, utilizing their reservation function, all these new things. And not only did we have to train our folks internally and make the changes internally, we had to share these changes with the campus. And like I said, having about 10 to 15% utilization on a campus when we're used to 95% really helped getting us to make these transitions and get these processes set up and getting the stakeholders introduced to our new processes. So what are some of the roles that you have to have as a leader during change? One, you have to be the sponsor. You lead as the advocate for change. Your leaders act as the advocate. This wouldn't have happened unless I was out advocating with my superiors and with my team about the change and leading from the front. You can't lead from the back, even though I've spoken about how you lead from the back. Here in a change mode, you have to lead from the front initially. You have to get your team to follow you, and then you work your way to the back by training them to take the leads. And the leader is the champion of change. Again, nobody else was going to make the change on this campus unless I, as the leader, made that change. The role model. Well, we have to be a role model as leader during change. Leaders of change must be willing to go first. I had to make the initial decisions and planning on how we were going to set up daily rates and how was it going to work. I had to do all that first because my team didn't know at the time how it was going to work. So once I was able to go first and demonstrate the expected behaviors, i.e. letting them have the ability to push back, to ask questions, and eventually take over these changes and the details, allowed them to become experts in change management, but also experts in this daily rate system that we're doing. And then in my employees, they're always watching your leaders for consistency between words and action. I couldn't just speak to speak. I had to act the act. And I had to act the words. I had to act and show that we are going this direction and actually put some rubber to the road to get us going there. And then leaders are self-aware and deliberate. Everything I did over the last couple of years as a leader during this change was deliberate. I was always aware of where our team was and what I needed to do next. I spent more time as a leader working the change process than actually working the details of the change because I couldn't do it all by myself. I had to first teach my team what the changes were and get them to actually take over the change process. And then they are now leading me on what the change process needs to be. And then from the back, I can say, hey, we need to go this direction. We need to go this direction. And they're able to implement it within the theories and processes of a daily rate. Well, as a leader, you have to make decisions. I controlled the resources as people, budgets, and equipment. So I had to make sure there was plenty of money available that could be available, or that the money that was available made sure that the purchases were done, the people were trained, and the budgets were made. And then again, the decisions I made not only were to help the situation at the time to make a decision, but also thinking about the decisions on how it's going to help the future, and make sure that our whole operation is going in this certain direction towards daily rates and not deviating. And leaders are decisive and set priorities for the team that support the change. Again, that just goes into, I spent more effort working with my team on the change process than I spent working the change. And communicate, that is the biggest one. You notice, remember, easy steps 1, 2, 3, that communicate was number 1. Well, guess what? It's number 4 here, but it's also should be number 1. Communicates are the face and voice of the change. Initially, my team was looking at me, looking to me for the direction, for the voice, for the communication, to share the information on how they're doing, and then always being transparent, consistent, admitting mistakes when mistakes are made. And engage. I wanted to engage my staff, and I did it purposefully and decisively and planned to get them to take over certain processes of the change process when it was time, or certain steps of the change process, so that they owned the change instead of me constantly feeding them the change. So you need to bring your team along. You need to be the motivation, and you need to be that back there. Once you're able to go from the front and train your folks and get to the back, then you have to motivate. And that's when you spend most of your time motivate. Leaders have to understand that change is difficult for folks. And a lot of my team it was difficult to understand it. And again, I go back to the fact that I spent a lot of time communicating, and a lot of my effort was on the process of change instead of the changing processes. And then, of course, are energetic and empathetic. I had to be every time I met with my team, we talked about, we were energetic. I was selling. I was empathetic, though, if they were having difficulties, and we would work together. But then again, I held my team accountable, and I was blessed to have a great team that took hold of this process and actually owned it, took ownership of it, and now they are the experts. But I held accountable. There were some folks that weren't performing, and I had to use my position as a manager to hold them accountable And you know, again, leaders follow through on delivering consequences when people don't perform. Again, here, even though that's important, if you have people who are resistant to change, internally, I didn't have that much resistance to change. The folks, again, they owned it, and I was able to be successful in the first 5 roles. The sixth role wasn't as imperative here. Most of the pushback for changing the daily rates came externally, and it came from small groups. Overall, daily rates has been highly accepted across the campus, and so far people are happy with it, even though we are having some technical issues and we're a lot of process changes. But again, my team owns the processes now, and so they make the decisions on how to make this and make the recommendations for what changes need to go ahead for the future. So in conclusion, even though I just wrote 4 principles of leadership, I didn't change that slide. It should be the 6 roles of leadership during change. 1, you sponsor. 2, you're the role model. 3, you make decisions. 4, you communicate. 5, you engage with your team. 6, you hold accountable if you have to. And then here's the 7th one, is bragging. I bragged about my team, and I bragged about my team not only internally, externally to the campus, but also industry-wide, because as people engaged me and asked me about what we were doing, it wasn't me that did this. Only thing I did was get the change process going. They processed the change. Thank you for watching, and hope you have a great month.